Welcome back to the Gun Collective podcast. My name is Jon Patton. Boys and girls, got a great guest this week. We have a politician. We have an actual politician with us this week. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a good time. But first, we're going to hit our sponsors, blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Use code TGC. Get yourself a discount. Get yourself some good coffee, tea, hot cocoa, all that. And of course, use that same code TGC at vertx.com. Get yourself an EDC bag, maybe some clothing as well, some luggage, etc. I'm not going to keep this man waiting because we have so much to cover. This is Aaron Bernstine. He is a representative state rep here in Pennsylvania. Aaron, how are you, man?
Hey, good, buddy. Thanks for, although you started off with, we have a real live politician. It's a dirty word in this house. So.
Well, it's true. That is your chosen career path.
Listen, I'm a business guy. And it's funny, the people that didn't hear before, you said I was expecting a suit and tie. Listen, I'm a t-shirt, ball cap kind of guy. And listen, I think just everything we try to do for the right reasons, and do whatever we can do to try to make the world a little bit better for the people around us and make sure that we're maintaining our freedoms.
So I believe it's a little bit north of Pittsburgh is your district.
That's correct. Yep.
And
So
roughly how many people are out there?
About 65,000 or so,
okay,
give or take, in each of our legislative districts. I am the 8th legislative district. I have parts of both Butler County and parts of Lawrence County. So it's a great place to be. Great folks. I tell you, they're just, John, they're good people, hardworking people. They take showers at the end of the day instead of the beginning of the day. And, I think you judge people by how hard they work and the things that they do and what they want to do and provide for their families as they move forward in life.
So is it fairly rural in that area? I don't know that I've ever been to Butler County.
Yeah, we will welcome you with open arms, and you would fit in very well over here. Very rural. A lot of strong Second Amendment supporters, good conservative area. Proud to be from here and proud to be, basically lived in this area my whole life.
Okay, so with the basics kind of covered, I know you're a conservative. I've seen your social media stuff. That's how you and I got linked up.
Mm-hmm.
I am very curious to kind of dig into what you think is going on in the state of Pennsylvania because, from my perspective, growing up in Chester County, I thought for a very long time that this was a conservative state and that we wouldn't have to worry about, potential gun legislation and other nonsensical things that have since come about in the last 5 to 10 years. Where are we at currently as a state? Like in a general sense, what's going on?
So I think a couple things. Okay, you have Philadelphia, which is just absolutely massive. You have Pittsburgh, and then Erie that a lot of people forget about. That's very, very, very large as well. So you take those three areas, and that's a big chunk of people in the entire Commonwealth. And then people used to say, well, the T, right? As you look at the state, right, and you go up and this way. But really, the T is now everything that isn't Philly, Pittsburgh, and Erie in terms of the way people vote and the way that people engage and the way that people operate in their lives. And like here in Lawrence County and Butler County, Beaver County, I used to have, you have good folks that make sure that they want to maintain their freedoms. But let me be clear about this. And here's the big but. You have these other big cities that my district is very, very large. It takes me an hour to get from, probably a little longer than that, about an hour and 15 minutes to get from one side to the entire other side.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
I could be within 15 minutes in 4, maybe 5 separate different districts in downtown Philadelphia. Massive high rises with, tens of thousands of people, right?
Yeah, all kinds of gerrymandering.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, though? Down there, it's not even much of a gerrymandering issue. It's you have so many people in a very compact area.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, it's just you have that many people in buildings that take up that much, that little amount of space. So, we're spread out over here. And our people typically don't want to be bothered, right? They, kind of stay away from me. I'll stay away from you. View of government. We're obviously here to provide services and whatever we can do to help folks. But, the vast majority of people here are self-sustaining and do things the way they want. And in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh and in Erie, it's a flip of a coin. It's literally night and day, heads and tails. And, so a lot of people live in those areas and they turn out the vote in those areas. That's why it's so critical that conservatives get involved in the process. And I've said this before. I actually spoke the other night at an event. And I say it's not just enough to go to the polls and vote. You got to go grab 5 people that weren't going to go anyway. Then you need to donate to candidates because the liberals and Democrats are doing it. Then you need to knock on doors for candidates because they're able to knock on a lot more doors than we are just because of compactness, right? We have to do those things as conservatives to protect our freedoms. And then also challenge your politicians, challenge your representatives, challenge your senators. Ask them in-depth questions, not surface-level questions. A surface-level question, and it's an issue you and I are very passionate about, is the Second Amendment, right? Well, do you believe in the Second Amendment? Yes. Okay, well, that's a surface-level question. It doesn't mean anything. Versus, hey, I was reading online, and all the bills are posted online. I was reading online, and there's a piece of legislation that's coming up, and that piece of legislation specifically deals with red flag laws that have that allow firearms to be taken away without due process. Where are you on that bill? What will you do specifically to stop that piece of legislation? That's a different type of question that we need to ask people.
Okay. Yeah. So be more specific, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, specific and detailed, I think. Remember, these people do this for a living. They learn how to weasel in and out of things. Not many of them are as blunt and as forthright as I am. Somebody asked me, a question, I answer the question. Most of the time, many of these politicians don't. So we have to be able to make sure that we're asking them the detailed, specific questions and pinning them down. And then, most importantly, is then holding them accountable to those questions and to their answers.
It'd be amazing if politicians at large were held accountable for any of their actions.
Listen, I challenge you on that for a second. We are at the voters' booth. But the issue is that it's the public's job to hold them accountable. And the public needs to do that. And the public needs to say, hey, if you're not going to be tough on these issues, then I'm going to go find somebody to run against you and work really hard for them.
I think that's fair. I think a lot of us are very much like the process will just work itself out, and I don't think that happens anymore. Mm-hmm. We had Jared from Guns and Gadgets on the show last week.
Great guy, by the way.
Yeah, Jared's awesome, really good buddy, and Jared's one of his key points was to get involved, and that's exactly what you're repeating and saying independently. And I'll tell you what, it's probably not as difficult as most people would assume. What would you say is like the easiest thing to do to get involved in fighting for, obviously in the context of this show, gun rights?
Yeah. So let me tell you what I need.
Sure.
I'll just use this as an example. Okay. I need somebody that will say, I will make 10 phone calls for 5 days.
My initial reaction is that sounds like a lot of work.
It's quick.
That's my gut. That's my gut.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't answer, right? How many do you answer your phone if you don't know who it is?
No, never.
Right? I don't.
Never.
Right?
Not
so you're just
anymore.
going to leave a message, right? I mean, and that's not difficult, right? A text message. It is going online and sharing social media posts. Like, that's not hard. You're messing around on it anyway, right? Go share a bunch of people that stand up and say, hey, this is why I support this guy. Make sure to go follow his page, right? Like, you can do little things that in time make a big difference. That's the kind of stuff that we need. Because, by the way, here's what I know. The other side, they're doing it.
Yeah, they're banging that drum all day.
They are not making 10 phone calls a day. They're making 30. Right? I don't ask a lot in terms of that stuff, but we need people to be helpful that stand up for pro-liberty leaders. And
would you say that you're a pro-liberty leader?
Yeah, try to be every day. I think what I did yesterday is not relevant. It's only about what you're doing today and what you're going to do tomorrow. To me, I think you have to prove you're good every single day and prove that you're in there for the right reasons every single day. So, my track record is very good, but at the end of the day, I should still be held accountable to voters and constituents by the things that I'm doing today, not necessarily what I've done in the past.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it. Would you say that Pennsylvania is an uphill battle for you right now?
Yeah, so a little bit of an anomaly. As you know, a member of the Freedom Caucus, we have a good amount. We don't release the specific number of the people that we have in the Freedom Caucus, but it's a strong number. Those people are strong liberty leaders, and we have many more in there. That being said, remember, we don't have a majority in the House of Representatives, and I'd guess that 25 to 30% of Republicans aren't necessarily in line with what strong Second Amendment issues aren't
I agree. Yeah.
strong life issues, aren't strong anti-tax issues. And I'll give you an example. And this is and I use this example. I'm sure it's going to get crushed for this someday, by the way, but I think it's important to understand. So there was a kid that came in, and he had a rare disease. Okay, and he came into my office, and he was advocating for $1.5 million for state investment to research state money, right, which is taxpayer money, to
Okay.
research this particular disease. Okay, it's something like 1 in 25 million people have it or
Oh
something.
my gosh.
Okay, I mean, it's like it's nuts, right? It's like such a few amount. It goes like, I don't know, 20 people across the country, like something nuts, right? He was advocating for $1.5 million for it. The kid's probably going to, he's not probably, he's going to pass away from this disease. Okay.
That's terrible.
It's horrible, right? Great kid, by the way. Like, he's everything you'd want a son. His mother's sitting in there, and they were advocating for this. And everybody else he went to said, yeah, absolutely. I'm for this. I'm for this. You got to have the guts to say, I don't think that's the job of taxpayers to pay for these things. There's medical
That's got to
research
be
that's done.
tough.
It was terrible, right? I mean, it's like my heart breaks for the young fella still. He's not that young, I mean, a teenager, but
Sure.
I mean, that's young, right? They're still a kid to me. So, I mean, I was honest with him. I said, listen, I will do everything I can do to support you. I will help you with any medical thing I can. I will do fundraising. I'll do whatever else. I do not think we should be using taxpayer funds to do research on a specific rare disease. I don't think that's the role of the government. And I was the only one that told him that. And he looked at me, and to this kid's credit, he looks at me and he goes, wow, he goes, I'm disappointed, but I appreciate you actually being honest with me. And, you know, I don't think we should do that. I think $1.5 million could be spent better in order to assist more people or in the people's pockets. And, you know, so you got to be able to be true to who you are, and you got to be able to make the tough decisions, and be honest about what you're about. And you know, every day I read this thing. It's called The Man in the Glass. I don't know if you've ever heard
No, I'm
the
not familiar.
it's a great one. So make sure you do it. And I'll challenge you next time on your next podcast, read it so your listeners can hear, and everybody else out there. It's The Man in the Glass. And it talks about you know, every day you got to look at yourself, right? You're the man in the glass. You're the guy in the mirror. And you got to be able to say, I'm doing these things for the right reasons. I'm doing these things because I believe that they're in the best interest of my 65,000 bosses, aka constituents that I have.
Man, I'll tell you what, that I can feel you, like, if I had to make a decision like that and look a child with a terminal illness in the face and say no, I think I would feel that. However,
Oh, you feel it.
I think
You
it's
feel it.
interesting that, you know, you did it, when you look at it from a logical standpoint, it sounds like you took the right path by saying, no, I don't think this is the right move. And it kind of falls in line with the idea of like universal health care and everybody pays for everybody. And you're saying, no, you know, responsibility. And I don't know that the taxpayers need to pay for this research on a rare disease that I don't know how many people are in the state of Pennsylvania, but it may not even be 25 million.
Yeah, 13 million.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
chances
so
of it's probably one kid in the entire state, and he's looking at $1.5 million for research. That's a tough position to be in. I certainly don't envy you having to have that conversation, but I applaud you for taking that stance.
yeah. Now,
Are
by the
there
way, there's a difference, right? If it's a cure, if it's those types of things, but you know, we know that would be an annual, ongoing budget line item. Um, you know, and to me though, but the bigger issue, I just use that example, but the bigger piece to this is, John, it is, you got to be true to who you are. And the issue is the issue. Like, if you're going to say I'm a fiscal conservative, then darn it, you better be. Not I'm a fiscal conservative, except when the issue impacts me or the issue impacts my neighbor, right? Like, you got to be who you are every single day. And I wake up every day, I know who I am, and you got to know who you are and what you're about.
I think, I entirely agree. I entirely agree. It is very difficult for a lot of people, myself included, to be that consistent. And I think that's a really wise position to take. So let me ask you this, because it's just bugging me. Where are you going with politics? Because I know some guys are in and out. You're state rep right now. Do you plan to run at the federal level? Is that the next step? Where are you headed?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I have no interest whatsoever in Congress. I think it's a complete mess, and there's 435 of them. I'm a big believer in you go to a place where you can have an impact.
Okay.
And John, if I thought I could have a greater impact at being a school board member, I'd leave this job tomorrow and go be a school board member. But I know I'm positively impacting state policy right now, not actually moving good things forward, but rather stopping bad things from happening, which most of the time is actually much more important in the world that we live in. I've kind of come up with a knack to be able to do that, and strategically I'm able to be pretty effective in that way, much to the chagrin of some of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, but that's okay. But listen, I'm not doing this forever. I got 3 little ones. We actually just formally adopted, what's today? Monday? Monday? 7 days ago, we actually formally adopted our two littlest ones. So I got
congrats,
Dirk's.
man.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have Dirk's, who's 8, Gio, who is 6, and Zendaya, who's 3. And listen, I do a lot of traveling. You probably see the bags under my eyes, but I do a lot of traveling, a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, and I ultimately want to make sure I'm spending some good quality time with them. But yeah, I'm not in this to run for a higher office. I know a lot of people say that. I've had many opportunities to do so. Listen, I'm effective where I'm at, and I'm going to keep doing the job that I can be really effective at.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to be. It's rare for a politician to say things like that. It's always, that's why I asked. It's always, what's the next step? And, I often look at the answers through the lens of, what is this guy going to gain from saying this answer? You know what I mean? And if your intent is to stay where you're at, great, great.
Yeah.
I think Pennsylvania has certainly gone through some challenges. Fill us in here. In terms of gun stuff, what would you say is like the worst thing coming our way currently? What are you fighting against?
Great question. So, can I ask myself a different question and answer it? So, if I could?
Sure, if you have to.
Okay. So, because remember, there's a lot of really, really, really bad bills out there that aren't going to go anywhere.
Right.
Okay. So, like, I'm throwing those out. Like, for example, a massive tax on ammunition, right? Like, that's not going to happen with the makeup of the legislature that we have today. So, I think it's more important to focus on the things that actually could happen.
Okay.
And that there could be an issue. So one of the things, and I hate this term, but this is what the public knows it as, is the gun show loophole, right? Oh, the gun show loophole. So what that basically means is, if you give your kid a firearm, they're a felon. You're a felon. And so are they, by the way.
Wait. What?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a gun show, basically says that you need to have a background check regardless of who it goes to, any long guns, shotguns, anything like that.
And this is a proposed bill here in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
and it has some legs. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, because we have people listening from all over the country, Pennsylvania currently has an allowance for a parent to give a firearm to a child. No transfer needed, nothing like that. Sort of inheritance. Or,
private sale. Yep. Yeah, so I can private sell to you, right? Not handguns, by the way. We're only talking long guns, right? So, a single shot shotgun that I have from my grandfather that I have, and eventually I'll give to one of my boys, whoever likes it the most, I guess, or whoever makes sure they'll take care of me when I'm old. I'll probably move that in there. But whatever that is, They're saying that you should have to take that firearm to a gun store with your kid and say, here, now this is my son's, right? It just doesn't
We
make
don't
sense to
have
me.
the first thing that comes to my mind is we're not prepared to do a background check on an 8-year-old.
Right. So first off, an 8-year-old can't actually purchase a firearm. You have to be 18 or over. So you would have to do that at 18.
So this is that's fascinating. So it's
Yep.
essentially, if you, depending on how you look at it, it could be sort of ban on children possessing firearms, because if they're in possession of it, technically that could be construed as a transfer, like say if you're out hunting or something like
Yep.
that is
Yep.
really interesting.
Yeah.
It's all in how it's
So
worded, of course, and I haven't seen the bill, but
well, it is in how it's worded, and they intentionally do these things in a manner that is very bland and generic. And the reason why they do that is they want to weaponize the judicial system, which we've seen all the time, in order to ultimately take away firearms. So, these are the types of things, the slippery slope type stuff that you have to look at. And understand that there's so many things and there's so many district attorneys out there that are so bad at what they do and are hardcore left wing, nobody should ever have a firearm type district attorneys, that they will absolutely weaponize this legislation if it should move forward. So to me, what do you do, right? You consistently talk about worst case scenario. People say, well, that won't happen. I said, hold on. I give you a lot of stories, right, about times where the law has been weaponized against people that shouldn't be arrested and shouldn't have those problems. And so we consistently focus on those types of things. But that's an issue I'm very, very concerned about, John.
so where did that come from? Which person put that forward?
Well, they have them both in the House and Senate. I actually forget the individual's name who has it, but it's getting legs and more legs. But this is because, once again, they're saying the gun show loophole, that anybody can walk into a gun show and anybody can purchase a firearm without a background check. Okay. Well, I'm telling you, that doesn't happen in Pennsylvania, because dealers at these places, nearly none of them want to be in a position where they sold a gun to a criminal, right? It's not good for business. So they do go ahead and do those background checks, even if they go get their FFL, right, federal firearms license, and then they do the background check through the PICS and NICS system, instant criminal search history of both Pennsylvania and the in the country.
So my question then is, do they genuinely believe that private transfers or private sales of firearms, long guns specifically, legal private transfers of firearms, do they believe that that is a major contribution to crime?
Yes.
Based on what?
Doesn't matter.
So they're just making this crap up?
Listen, if I say things enough times, it becomes true, right?
Yeah.
And they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Okay. But the truth is, it's not true. And the data doesn't support that. The firearm crimes typically come from stolen firearms. They come from guns that were stolen. They come from people that should have never had them in the first place. They come from handguns,
illegal
right?
purchases, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're stolen. I mean, I give you an example. I had my AR stolen. I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago or so. Somebody broke into my house. They guessed, the police guessed, within 24 hours that thing changed hands like 5 times. I mean, it's right. Who knows where it is? Okay.
Wow.
That's the kind of thing that, and broken apart, torn down, you know the game, right?
Oh, I do.
Remember, these criminals don't care about the law. It doesn't matter what you say, John. It doesn't matter what law you put on the books. They will break the law because they are law breakers. It's that simple.
It's kind of in the name, criminal.
That's it. Their criminal behavior, and if it's not that, it'll be something else.
Do you believe that there is a way for us to communicate to those that oppose the Second Amendment and firearms, and I believe it's Pennsylvania's Title 41? I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania has its own Second Amendment, essentially.
Article 1, Section 3.
Article 1, that's what it was.
Article 3, Section 1. Yeah. So I take a different approach, actually.
Okay, sure.
I think there are those that are hardcore on the I hate guns, I hate guns, I hate guns, and nobody should ever have them, and I don't like them, right? And then there are guys like me and you. If somebody's not pro Second Amendment, and nearly everybody watching this, you're not going to vote for the person if they're not pro Second Amendment, right? Hands down. Litmus test. Fair? Okay, so you don't really so you don't really matter as a voter because you're already a Second Amendment voter. You're always going to be a Second Amendment voter till the day you die. So am I. Okay, so is my wife. Here's where I think we missed the boat, and this is where I've worked with FOAC, GOA, and NAGR, NRA, etc. We need to get the people that are kind of weary and kind of not real comfortable with firearms, that may never own a firearm in their life and don't really like them, but we need to show them the value of it. And I'll give you the perfect person. My mother. Okay. I walk in, I carry, obviously. My mom will not stop staring at my gun to this day. I've carried for, I don't know, 12 years, right? Something like that. No, longer than that, I guess. Anyway, 15 years plus. She's nervous around them. She doesn't like them. She's not comfortable. She doesn't want to see them. She doesn't want to be around them at all. Okay. But I live in the middle of nowhere, and it takes the cops 45 minutes to get to my house.
And your house has already been broken into.
Yeah. Here's how I got my mom to be a pro-gun voter. My mom doesn't care that much about me, and she likes my wife a little bit more than me, but she loves her grandbabies.
Okay.
If something happens in that house and I'm traveling, or even if I'm home, somebody needs to defend her grandbabies. My mom is now a Second Amendment voter because she understands that the police won't get here in time to help. And people need to be able to have a firearm to protect her grandbabies.
You brought up
Pam
the 45
is now
minute...
a Second Amendment voter.
Okay,
that's how you do it.
Yeah,
no,
I think the middle
ground.
Right? The middle ground absolutely is the forefront. And I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think COVID woke a lot of people up. And I don't mean woke culture in general, that sort of term. I mean, it like opened people's eyes to government overreach in a big way. What do you think about that?
So interestingly enough, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, do you know how the government was able to do that?
Because people allowed it.
Kind of.
Okay.
But the mechanism, the actual mechanism.
I don't know. It was some emergency nonsense, I believe.
Kind of. At the end of the day, it was licensure.
Explain.
You go to get your haircut at a barber, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have to have the license, a barber's license.
Okay.
They told the barbers, if you don't shut down, we're going to take your license away. You go to a restaurant. They said, we're going to take your food license away if you don't shut down. You go to, I don't know, pick a place, like whatever it is, right? So the licensure, government licensure, is actually the enemy of freedom, because that is the mechanism that the executive branch can consistently use and make regulations without the authority of the legislative branch. So they've used the licensure mechanism. What do we all talk about with guns? License, right?
Yeah, right.
Guess what's next, guys? Okay. So it's the licensure mechanism that was used during COVID. People say, well, it's because people let them. I got it. Okay. That all sounds good. And by the way, like, I was all for the businesses that said, forget it. I don't care. I'm staying open, right? Supported them the whole way. Okay. But I also understand that this is these people's only income, and they didn't want to lose all their livelihood and everything that they poured their entire life into, right? I don't know what I would have done. I hope I would have stayed open, right? I'm a pretty principled guy, but at the end of the day, it's one thing to be principled. It's another thing when you say, I got to feed my kids.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what was going on with this. And okay, fine. If I got to shut down for 2 or 3 weeks, then it is what it is. It's not what I wanted to happen, right? But that was the issue. So they did it through licensure. Every time you hear transfer, guns, licensure, just remember, that's how they did it in COVID.
I think it's important for people listening to understand that Pennsylvania does not have a concealed weapons permit. We have a license to carry a firearm. It is
Correct.
very specific to firearms. It does not cover all weapons. It is literally
Correct.
called a license to carry a firearm, and that falls under exactly what Aaron is talking about.
Yep. So, that licensure issue is a thing that, I continue to be weary of. And that's why you'll see any bill that comes forward, like they wanted to add additional licensures to plumbers, right? And change some stuff. I'm like, nope. They're like, why? I'm like, because during COVID, people literally couldn't get their toilet fixed. like, we're not going to make it more complicated. And that's why it becomes a consistent issue for me on that licensure issue.
The state of Pennsylvania, or should I say the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has surprised me with certain things like that. Again, growing up, I swore this was a conservative bastion, and it seems to have shifted. Do you think that our current governor and his cronies will be the unraveling of the state? Can we prevent it? And if so, how?
So he made a huge mistake as it deals with this last budget. He made a
Okay.
colossal error in which he lied to the Pennsylvania State Senate after they
Oh,
passed part of a bill that had to deal with school choice. He then basically changed the rules in the middle of the game after the Senate already passed it and said, "Well, I'm
ooh.
going to line item this." Okay, he's got a lot of work to do if he ever wants to get anything done in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania now. This was a flat out lie. This wasn't I'm saying one thing and situations change. It's not what happened. So, listen, at the end of the day, I think that the Pennsylvania State Senate is angry at him, but we got to win elections. And until you win elections, you got bigger issues. So, we have huge elections coming up with the courts. It doesn't matter what the legislature and governor will do ultimately if we consistently get slaughtered in these judge races. So we got to make sure, and I'm working very hard to make sure that we do whatever we can do in order to try to win win the court system.
For those listening, I'm not sure where he is in the running, but a friend of TGC, Josh Prince, is running to be some level of district judge or some stuff like that. Find Josh Prince
Yeah,
on
he
social
was
media.
John. He was John. I supported him, voted for him, and endorsed him in the primary. Unfortunately, he was defeated, but
Oh,
he.
jeez. Of course,
But
I told you I'm out of
regardless,
the loop.
no, it's all good. But listen, I'm a big Josh Prince fan, and by the way, he is exceptional. If people out there get an opportunity, it's Josh Prince, by the way, Prince. Look up his Facebook stuff. Look up his articles. He is exceptional. Huge fan of Josh. Just an absolutely huge fan of Josh. But once again, listen, fine, he got beat, right? Now I'm on the new guys team, new girls team, right? We got to make sure that we're doing whatever we can do to elect a Republican to those offices to defend our freedoms.
Do you think libertarians have any chance here in Pennsylvania?
No,
Why not?
third party can't win. At the end of the day, you have a certain number of people that are registered Republican, a certain number of people that are registered Democrat, and there's not enough of libertarian. I think anytime somebody runs in those positions, as all they're doing is taking votes away from the Republican. By the way, if you want to be libertarian leaning, pretty much me, right? If you want to be very libertarian in nature, great. Run under the Republican platform. That is the one that you can actually win under, and reach out to me and I'll support you.
So my immediate thought based on that is, so how do we change things? Because from my perspective, and I'm sure a lot of our audience's perspective, the two-party system is completely and utterly broken.
Yeah.
What would you say, what kind of reform can we try to enact to challenge the status quo?
Get involved in primary elections.
Okay.
Elect people that have your values and beliefs. I'm not trying to evade it, but I'm telling you, the Democrats will stick together. And if you get some other more on the conservative wing of third party or anything else, is all that's going to happen is Republicans are going to lose because the vote would be split that way, and the Democrat will win every time. And listen, I'll take a bad Republican over a good Democrat any day, to be honest with you. I've been in Harrisburg. I know that's not the popular opinion sometimes when people, when I say it, but I'm telling you, the one side sticks together every single time on issues. They're the ones that will force pro anti-gun laws. They're the one that will force pro-abortion laws. They're the ones that will add for additional spending every single time. With Republicans, at least you have a shot.
I think a lot of the Republicans in my area, Chester, Delaware County, Philadelphia, I think anybody with Republican under their title is typically a lying sack of shit. Typically, I can't speak. I haven't met them all, but typically they are just what people call rhinos, Republican in name only. How do we get past that nonsense? Are you saying just have more people go run against them?
Yeah, but here's the other thing: you got to win. Okay, so like that hardcore conservative can win out here. We also need the votes to get to 102, which is the majority to be able to set the agenda and stop the Democrats from even introducing these bills.
Okay.
So sure, do I love them? Oh no, I mean there's Republicans. I'm like, oh my god, here we go again. Right, here's their vote, but they won't even get the chance to vote on that bad stuff if the Democrats aren't in the majority. So at least, we got to have people like me and some of the other ones that are driving hard on those issues. Okay. But we also just need enough people that kind of are there for the ride almost and will just vote to keep us in the majority. So, I think, yeah, and you got some good ones out there, by the way, like Craig Stats. Awesome. Yeah. Kristen Marcel. Awesome. You got some good ones out there.
I have never heard either of those names.
Yeah, they're from out there. Yeah.
That shows you how much I have spent time digging into my local stuff because I've just given up. To be this area has flipped because of the population boom.
Yep.
In my area, it's flipped and it's really fascinating. I also live outside of an area that's very densely populated. It's not great.
It would not be for me. It would not be for me.
Oh, yeah, it's not ideal. It's
I
not
like
ideal.
my farm. I'm good.
You know what is ideal?
By the way, speaking of farm, I have really exciting news. We just had 9 puppies this morning, so I'm pretty pumped about that.
9?
Yeah.
What kind?
Great Pyrenees.
Oh my
gosh. Right
gosh.
before I walked up here to do this, I checked and I thought we had 8 and another one must have just popped out. So.
9. Are they little fluff balls yet?
Yeah, but they're like boring for the first 3 weeks. They don't open their eyes yeah.
So are you going to have a sled team or are you going to give them away?
We sell them. So
sell them.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
Yeah. We sell them. We do. They go everywhere, like all over the country for some different stuff for
are you guys
livestock guardian
breeders?
protection. Kinda. I mean, they basically their puppies cover the dog's cost. That's about it. But
hey, that helps. Everything helps, right?
Hey, got to make a couple bucks.
That's
got
cool,
more mouths
man.
to feed now.
I think what else helps cover costs is a sponsor spot from blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Use the code TGC. Aaron, do you like coffee?
I have never drank a cup of coffee in my life.
How about tea?
You said they had hot chocolate, right?
Yeah.
Wintertime, I'm a hot chocolate connoisseur.
I'm going to make sure that you get remind me and I will get you some Cocoa Sips is the brand that they use. It's
awesome.
Their brand. They call it Cocoa Sips. It's actually really, really good hot cocoa. And
nice.
Fall and winter's coming up. Y'all need to get on it. blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Use code TGC to save yourself some cash. And Vertex, VERTX.com. Use code TGC. Save at least 15%. Now, I think one of the hardest things for us, quote unquote, civilians to stomach is the politics and the strategy of what you guys have to do to win. Mm-hmm. And you said it just a couple minutes ago of like, we just need people to vote along with us, regardless of where they stand. They just kind of go, they're just kind of filler.
Yep.
Do you think there is a way to get those people enthusiastic about something, or are they enthusiastic about other topics and just not on the gun stuff?
A lot of them are enthusiastic just about getting reelected and that, and I'll tell you this is kind of interesting where I saw a thing the other day where it said, hey, the salary is X and I think we're like 102,000 or something like that. And, we work 50 days a year, right? But here's what I'll tell you. You can absolutely work 50 days a year and make $100,000. Okay. There are those there that do it. But if you do the job right, you are 24/7, 365 on this thing. I mean, you've sent me messages, I'm back right away, right?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
I'm on it. So to me, I think like I am, like this morning, I took my kids to school, first day of school today. Okay.
Oh, cool.
I'll finish up today at, 9. I'll end up home, got a little baseball practice a little bit later today with them. But hey, I've been in my office grinding away the entire day.
You're working right now.
And that, yeah, working now. And then, whenever they're in bed at 8:30 or so, they'll be in bed and I'll be up till midnight, 1 o'clock, hammering emails and doing stuff and things like that. So,
Wow.
listen, you got to be on it and you got to care about it. It's got to be in here. Trust me, you don't do it for the money. I say this all the time. I say, whenever I got elected, I took a pay cut. I make about 33.33% whenever I first came on to what I made the last year before. All right. So I took a 66% pay cut. I also lost a lot of staff. I was a pretty successful sales guy and in business. And, so I think we need to also elect people that are taking demotions, not promotions when they get elected.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
We have a lot of them, John. We are getting more and more and more on there. Don Kiefer, I'll throw some names at you. Don Kiefer, David Rowe, Robert Ledbetter, Joe Diorsi. I mean, guys that are just good, guys and girls that are just good people. Charity Krupa, like that are coming in and they're saying, I'm not going to do this forever. I'm going to be really aggressive while I'm here. I'm not along for the ride. And then I'm done. And I'll go back and do something else. And I think we're getting more and more of that. And then, by the way, because of like our friend group, then we're able to help replace ourselves with people that are the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Kind
I
of
think it's helpful.
that.
Yeah, it's helpful.
I wouldn't mind seeing somebody with similar values to you, even if it's not you, really step into a larger leadership role here in Pennsylvania and try and push it back to where it was when we were kids. If you grew up out in Butler County, you had a similar upbringing to what I did over here on this side of the state.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
And I think it's got to be right across the board, right? Number one, I always say, if you're going to run for office, number one, can you win? So if you can't win, don't even bother having a conversation, right? It's not relevant.
You wouldn't say that that's a defeatist attitude?
No, if you can't win, don't run.
Okay.
I mean, like,
how would somebody know if they could or could not win?
I know I can't run for president and win.
Why do you say that?
I can't raise the money. I can't do the things. And plus my wife would kill me.
Okay.
But no, seriously, like if you can't win, don't run. Like there's no value whatsoever to do that. You don't run for something because it's the cool thing to do or you want a title or, you want people to think of you differently. You run for something because, and then the second thing is, can I be effective? So if you can't be effective in the role, don't do it. That's why I won't run for Congress right now. At this point in my life, I don't think I can be effective. Might that change someday? Maybe. Excuse me, pardon me, John.
Don't die.
But I know you don't need another special election. If you can't be effective, don't do it. And if you don't think that you have the skill set, and maybe go out and get another job that gives you those skill sets to be effective. And then is it good for your family and is it acceptable? So and people say, well, it should be first. Is it good for your family? I said, hold on. If you can't win, you don't even bother engaging in that conversation, right? And then if you can't be effective, you don't need to engage in that conversation. But once those two things are in there and in the bag, then guess what? Now we're going to have that family conversation, see if that makes sense for everybody.
I think that's a lot of people underestimate how much work. Obviously, you can go the easy route. You certainly could. But to be effective, like Aaron is speaking on, you really need to be engaged with the community. And that is a difficult task, especially nowadays with everybody being so shut off to politics. I think a lot of people, and I've said this many, many times over, I think people are exhausted because of the Trump election cycle and then COVID and Biden and scandal, this, that, the other, Ukraine, crackhead son, etc. I think people are exhausted with politics. Have you seen the results of that in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, the Democrats aren't exhausted. They're energized and ready to go.
They love crackheads.
Well, especially when your kids want. But listen, they're energized and ready to go. So at the end of the day, you better be ready to fight. If somebody, you can be really tired and really exhausted, But if somebody comes in and tries to hurt you and hurt your family, aren't you going to fight back?
Oh yeah.
Are you going to stay in bed? You're tired, right? No. Well, that's what they're trying to do here. So, I'm not going to lay down and let it happen. I'm going to continue to battle every day.
What is your biggest battle right now? I know you're not just, the pro gun guy. You've got
Yeah.
your hands in a lot of different things. We're like, what is your current biggest battle?
State-related universities, Pitt, Penn State, and Temple, the funding of those. Penn State admitted that they're giving puberty blockers to children.
What?
And yeah, they admitted it.
What?
Yeah, it's on my social media. You can check it out. But they
Oh my
actually admitted they're
gosh.
giving puberty blockers to children in order to stop them from going into puberty for gender dysphoria. So
Dude.
listen to me, not one penny, and nobody should vote for these universities until they say we will halt that behavior and we will halt it now.
I will say this. I do not get into issues of LGBTQ, whatever we're calling it currently. I have stood with the Pink Pistols, and I've taken sort of a middle ground of liberty for all. I don't
Yeah.
care what you do in your bedroom type stance. I think when you start fucking with kids, we've got a big problem. That's my stance. That is absolutely insane to be messing with a child's chemical balance.
Mm-hmm.
It is rare for me to like take a hard stance, but that is the worst shit we can be doing to a child is messing with their chemicals. Because here's what's going to happen. These kids are going to grow up with chemical imbalances, and they are not going to be well adjusted in society because as a child, they were given drugs to stop from the evolutional, but that's not the right word. The processes that a human goes through to become an adult. We've stopped those. What the hell?
Yeah, so here's where I'm at with it. And I think similar to you, I just word a little bit differently, but I think we're saying the same exact thing. Adults are able to do adult type behaviors and make adult type decisions.
Sure.
And, when you're an adult, you can do that. I really don't care. Listen, I think it's kind of weird, right? If people want to cut body parts off, but I mean, listen, when I was like 12, I still thought I was going to play in the NFL. I mean,
Okay.
and then I looked around. I was like, maybe I'm not playing. I mean, but you can't make life decisions then. I mean, what are we doing? So that's my biggest fight right now. That's what I've been on for the last several weeks, and that's been my primary focus.
So help me understand here. These universities are giving them to children. Is this part of some study, or
No,
these?
so yeah, so first and foremost, there's a couple different things. So what happens with this particular issue is their every insurance has a code for every issue. So the
Okay.
specific code for this is like gender changing or gender dysphoria, something like that. Okay,
Sure.
so there's absolutely a reason for puberty blockers that we need in society. One of those things is, sometimes there are girls that go into puberty at like the age of 5, or right, that there's a chemical issue that happens, or boys, right? It's a problem. So that's different than what we're talking about with this situation. I think it's important to differentiate between the two.
It's almost like we're treating a mental challenge with physical
Absolutely.
like physical
Yep.
blocking stuff. I don't really know the right phrasing for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what
Wow.
we're saying
Okay.
is that, hey, you shouldn't be able to. Yes, there's a reason for different types of medication for people that need it for actual medical reasons. They released the information, said no, these were done because kids decided they wanted to be or might want to be a girl or might want to be a boy, so they're blocking puberty, for a period of time. And that's, I think that's wrong, right? When you're 12, 13, 11, I don't know, it's a long time ago for me, I guess, but my voice only cracks now when I'm tired. So but
I still
it
haven't
was,
hit puberty. It's fine.
yeah, mentally, I guess, for either of
Yeah,
us
yeah,
someday.
exactly.
My wife would agree. She'd be like, "That's right." But I think that's the biggest problem that I have with these universities, and they're not transparent. They're not accountable, and we ought to hold them accountable if they're going to receive up to $850 million in total of taxpayer dollars. They ought to be held to very high standards.
I 100% agree. I would also argue that they shouldn't be involved in things of that nature at all. I mean,
Right.
are these
100%. I agree.
universities, are they executing these experiments on society? Are they with taxpayer dollars nonetheless?
Yeah.
Like,
So
wait,
what they
what?
say is no, it's not with taxpayer dollars. It's a different pot of money. I mean, you know the game, right? It's a shell game.
Oh,
It would be
Jesus.
like this. It would be like, are you married?
I am not.
All right. So like, let's just say you are for a second. Okay.
Sure.
So it'd be like saying, if your family wanted to donate, like you and your wife both work, each make $50,000 a year, okay, $100,000 in the family pot, right? And all of a sudden, your wife wants to go out and support some anti-gun thing, right? And you guys decide as a family, because the decision has to be made jointly as a family, that you're going to give $1,000 a year to Mothers Against Guns or whatever their goofy shirts are. Okay. But then you're like, Aaron, it wasn't me. It's not
It
on my
wasn't my
name.
money.
There's a
Yeah.
different pot of money, right? I mean,
What's
that's crazy.
What's
It's
funny is
crazy.
that exact same thing happened with, I believe he's the former owner of a company called X Products. A few years back, his wife was donating, and people caught it. She was donating a bunch of money to anti-gun stuff. Oh no, it's not my money. It's not my.
Right.
She does what she wants. That sort of stuff. I thought that
Right.
was fascinating.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
so,
maybe
so
that's
the
not the best example,
universities,
but you get my point.
yeah. So the universities are skirting the issue, and to you as a parent and as a conservative leaning, liberty leaning um, representative, you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why are we funding you guys if this is the crap you're doing, essentially?
Yeah, and listen, I think I've done a pretty good job, and I don't mean to come across cold with this, but back to the original thing that we have, I try not to address the things in the house of me, my personal views, my personal, like my family situation or anything like that. Okay, I try not to. I try to say, okay, I'm representative of these 65,000 people. They're my
So
boss.
what would they want me to say?
What do they want me to do? And
I
like,
see.
but
I
by the
see.
way, like, I'm never going to shy away from who I am as a person, right? I am
Okay.
who I am. This is what I'm running on. If you don't like it, vote for somebody else, right? Um, and I've had that conversation with people. I mean, I've had Republicans that are like, you're too pro gun, or you're too pro life, or we need to spend money on these things. And I say, listen, you're gonna have to go vote for somebody else. Like, that's not who I am. Um, and if you want somebody else, that's okay too. But just understand, like, I am who I am. We're going to stick to the liberty leaning type things. And at the end of the day, I think that my 65,000 bosses don't think it's acceptable that we're injecting little girls and little boys with medicine, by the way, in quotation marks, um, drugs in order to stop them from hitting puberty. That they're then referring girls for top surgery to remove their breasts, or boys for genital surgery to remove their penises and testicles. Like, I just think that's inappropriate. And surely I'm going to do everything in my power to stop that from occurring.
I think it's interesting that there is a whole group of people that have put life decisions, permanent life decisions, in the hands of children,
Mhm.
as if they have the ability to
Yeah.
process all of that.
I mean, like, have you talked to like any 22, 23, 24-year-old lately, like in general, just a conversation?
I tried recently. I tried, and it was like talking to a piece of cardboard.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't even know if they're almost ready to make long-term life decisions at times, right? Can we not let 13-year-olds decide that they're going to be a girl, or that they're going to be a boy? That they're going to be something different than God made them. I mean, that just doesn't add up. But a good example, like my wife, she was always like a tomboy type thing, right? Playing outside and shooting stuff and whatever. Like, that doesn't mean she's a boy. But I'll tell you, like, her parents could have been like, "Whoa, she likes playing with trucks and not Barbie dolls. She likes red and not pink. Geez, maybe she's a boy." Like, that's ridiculous. Like, but those are the types of decisions that are being made now. And I would even say, I'd push it further, John, by crazy parents that are advocating for these types of things, even more so sometimes than kids.
Oh, I mean, the kids aren't advocating for it. They don't even
No,
know what the decisions
no,
they're making are.
no.
I think it's really interesting, and the same thing could apply to firearms, any any issue politically could fall into this, where there is this desperation, absolute desperation for approval,
Yeah.
outside approval. And based on that need for outside approval, people make decisions that they think will get them approval. Politicians have been doing this for a very long time, but we're seeing this now from a vocal minority of folks that are sort of making these decisions, going, please like me, please like me, look, I'm
Right.
accepting, look, I'm one of you, I'm an ally, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is being detrimental to everyone, because it doesn't actually help the rights of those that are marginalized and are
No.
taken advantage of. It doesn't help those causes. It really doesn't.
Well, I mean, it goes back
What?
to what I.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. No, like what I talked about at the very beginning, where it says when you look at or something about it with yourself, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the glass and see what the man has to say.
Mm.
Right? Like that's my thing, right? So, you know, like that's it, right? Like you got to know who you are as an individual, what you're about, who you're about. You know that it's so critical that you know who you are,
It's
and
a
then
very
you stick with
difficult
that.
thing to figure out. I think, I mean, I'm 39 years old,
Me too.
and I would argue that I still don't know who the hell I am in
Yeah. Well,
certain
you're
ways.
always changing and evolving, right? As an
Right.
individual, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, you had your core values, your core beliefs in that rock, and said, "Listen, this is who I am. This is what I'm about."
Yeah. Aaron, I really, really genuinely appreciate you jumping in today. Is there anything that you want people to know, people to, like, a call to action to the people that are listening or watching?
Yeah, I think two things. One, and hopefully you can put the link on there for me. But it's Aaron for State Rep. So it's facebook.com/Aaron for State Rep. Aaron Bernstein for State Representative is what you can look it up. If you could put the link on there, listen,
Yep.
like the page, share our stuff, and then most importantly, go to invite friends to like the page and click them all. We need that kind of type of support out there. It's very, very helpful for us to get our message out, especially in an environment where the mainstream media, or as I call them, the lamestream media, refuses to publicize or push stuff out. So we need to be doing it that way.
Guys, I want to make it very clear that he is not asking for money. He is not asking you to do any hard work. He's saying, go check me out on social media, listen to what I have to say, and if you believe and you agree, support me and support those that are similar. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you know, invite your friends to like it. It's real easy to do on there. Share some posts. It literally takes no time, but that's the kind of thing, and that's the kind of help that we need in order to get our information out to people. Because remember, then we're reaching this out not only across my district, not only across Western Pennsylvania, not only across the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We have national followers that do stuff. So you know, we need as many people on board as possible, so we're able to consistently get that message out, and then put that pressure on the people that we need to do the right thing.
You know, the phrase I like to use is signal boosting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that a lot of people can wrap their brains around. We're taking, you know, the idea of cannot stop the signal, and we're adding to it. We're making that signal stronger. And I think with folks that are liberty minded and pro gun, like actually pro gun, not just fake pro gun, like, you know, say the NRA or something like that, I think we need to take that and lift those voices up. And Aaron, in my opinion, is certainly one of them. So thanks again
Thank
for
you,
being
brother.
on the show. I really do appreciate it, man. I know you're busy as all hell.
Happy to be here and appreciate all the great work you do. And thanks also to the sponsors. They do an awesome job supporting you guys. Really appreciate it. And thank you to the listeners as well.
And speaking of those sponsors, blackoutcoffee.com/TGC and vertex.com/nothing. Use the code TGC. Anyway, guys, thank you as always for listening, watching, etc. Hopefully we can get Aaron back on in a little bit of time and talk some more about this, especially if you guys want to hear more from him and try and learn more about the political process here in Pennsylvania and how you can get involved. We would love it. He would love it, I'm sure. As always, thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon.